Meeting is called to order, and everybody please rise is able to flex. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is called pursuant to the provision of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of April 28, 2025 was included in the list of meetings noticed into the Hunter County Democrat for your news on January 6, 2025. Posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall on that date and has remained continuously posted as required. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Borough Clerk. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Arias.
Here.
Councilwoman Engelhardt. Here. Councilwoman Pissarro. Here. Councilman Levitt.
Here.
Council Vice President Long.
Here.
Council President Parker.
Here.
And Mayor Karen.
Here, we have no presentations. I just will stand there. No, okay, I have a number of things to bring up. First of all, I'm appointing Robin Rudy, appointing to Borough to the Public Arts Committee. We have an opening on
How do you spell her name?
Art Robin without an I. I think it's R-B-I, she spells it the same way as Robin.
No, the last name.
Oh, R-U-D-Y.
Oh.
Yeah, that happened at the opening of Lily Clark.
Oh.
The Public Art Committee, there is an opening for a second artist. And that term will expire in 2027. There was a vacancy that expired at the end of 2024. So, appointing her tonight. I also want to bring to a couple of issues to the council. So Dave Giuliani, I decided to just talk about this in public because it's not like a bad personnel issue. Dave called me the other day to let me know that starting in the fall, October 1st, he and his wife will be taking their RV down to South Carolina for the entire winter until May 1st, 2026. And his willingness to come back up to Flemington is like a commitment for every other week, every 2 weeks, which, you know, and it was very friendly conversation. He's like, you guys need to do what you need to do, whatever you want to do. So sometime this summer, I think, I would like to go out and advertise to see what's out there. It's a really hard position to fill. I'm also going to talk to a couple of our adjoining municipalities to see about a shared service as a possibility. The nice thing is, you know, if we can't find anybody, you know, Dave is willing to continue and then he'd be back for the whole summer again. I just think that, you know, we finally have things more straightened out in Flemington. And it's because Dave has been dedicating more time here. And I don't want to see any, you know, recidivism on the cleanliness and neatness and everything that's in the town. So I just wanted to let all of you know that. So he's not getting notice and he, you know, he just is giving us the accommodation of letting us know his intention. So that's thing one. Thing two, I want to just give you an update on the parking committee meeting regarding all these reticulating lights. So our traffic engineer is working on a he's putting in order the reticulating lights that we've discussed. You know, originally we discussed having 3 sets on Main Street. Since that time, I've had people from the community come forward about Allen Street at Kapner. And then I think Councilwoman Engelhardt brought up the issue on Allen Street and North Main. And so Jay is actually looking to reorder these, not to get more, but to put them into a more important order. He said that the North Main light, in his opinion, is the most important one. It's the most dangerous crosswalk we have in the borough right now.
And the police agree.
And the police absolutely agreed. So, so Jay is gonna be coming forth at some point when we do the capital budget, with his professional opinion on where these lights should go. Meanwhile, the parking committees has also started having conversations about the Flemington Circle and people using that circle and walking to ShopRite or the supermarket or the shopping center, and how dangerous it is. So, because that circle is under the jurisdiction of the state, all except for one crosswalk, he spoke to the DOT on our behalf. The DOT has a program that they would install and pay for all of the reticulating lights around the circle with a 25% match from the borough. So Jay is calling the DOT to see if that's like a done deal, like all we have to do is do whatever we need to do, and they guarantee that. So he's checking with them, and then he's gonna come in to see the members, either he's gonna send a memo or he's gonna come, I'm not really sure which one, but the process is that the council has to pass a resolution, not only in support of this, but also stating that it will match with the 25%, but Jay, we've asked him to like find out 25% of what, is that soft costs as well as hard costs? You know, are they gonna maintain it? When they install it, do they have to put state police out there while they're installing it? Do we have to pay 25% of that? To be really expensive, so he's doing a deeper dive into the costs. And then he'll be coming to the council again, after the budget's done, the capital budget's done. To see if you all want him to pursue that. I will tell you, as I shared with the parking committee, I've had 2 near misses personally. One, somebody who walked right out into the middle of traffic on Mine Street at Maine, wearing a headset and reading his cell phone and never looked into traffic. That was Saturday of last weekend, not this past Saturday, but the weekend before. And another one right on the circle, a young man wearing a headset and also looking at his cell phone on the circle, walked right into one of those intersections. And never looked up and never checked traffic, and in fact, I literally stopped a foot from him. And he never looked up, didn't even know I was there. It scared the bejeebus out of me. So that's another update, and finally, as we've transitioned from Rave to what was Nixle, Everbridge. It has come to my attention through Sergeant McNally, when he went to give Rave notice that we were no longer going to be using their services, that there was a contract that has another year on it, that was illegally authorized and entered into in 2017, illegally authorized and entered to in 2020, and then again, illegally authorized and re-entered to in 2023. Those contracts were authorized and signed by our former utilities clerk without any concurrence from the council, no legal authorization, and under the law, no powers to sign a contract on behalf of the borough. So she did that under Mayor Griner, Mayor Driver, and me. So our council and I discussed the situation, and our opinion is, let them come after us. They do not, unless they can show us a resolution authorizing her to sign a contract on our behalf. Or a resolution authorizing somebody to sign a contract and entering into a contract, don't come after us, it's $2,300. Say that out loud.
You said it well, Mayor, I couldn't say it any better except I agree, and we don't know this in detail, so.
So if anyone has any questions, Sergeant McNally's here. He did have Carla do a deep search to try to find a resolution, as well as a contract. I mean, the contracts there are signed by her, but there's no resolution at all.
And there's no second signature.
But so are you saying that no one gave her the authority, like none of the past mayors gave her?
Yeah,
Well,
but
one mayor had to know about it and it just was passed down.
She signed when I was mayor, she never said a word to me.
there's no resolutions ever done. You know, I knew that she had engaged, or her and the chief at the time had discussed it in 2017 when we signed on to this, but it was initially brought up and always purchased out of the water and sewer budget. And then OEM and the police got access to it. And then it was called Swift 911 at the time, and then it transpired into Rave when Motorola bought it. So we had no direct control over it. Bill Hanson and I never saw a contract. We never knew there was a term. I just knew on our account that it was due every March.
But it was being paid.
Yeah,
Well, that's my question. If it were being paid. I mean, these bills are passed every week, I mean, every month, right? So it was being paid. And I guess what my question is, and I'm not doing this.
No, yeah, so
I'm trying to understand
your
where was the
question.
breakdown in the
yeah,
process.
so everyone knew it was being paid. We didn't know what the length of the term of the contract was. No one ever saw the contract. I figured it was a year-to-year term at that point, just like our Everbridge after the initial 3-year term, we would switch to year, or we could renew at a discounted price for a longer term. So I didn't know there was a contract in place, but Hans didn't know there was a contract in place. So I can't, in March, I sent them the email, said we've transitioned to a new system. We'll be canceling our services, and they said, well, you can't because you're under contract. I said, what contract? We don't have any, Phil didn't have a copy, Carla didn't have a copy at the time. So I said, can you please send me the contract so we can review it? And that's what got sent back to us.
So, again,
And the
I'm just really trying to understand the breakdown of the process so this doesn't happen again. But the point of it is, whether it's in this administration or next administration, right? But for me, and again, I'm putting my business hat on, industry hat on. If you pay something month to month, but hold on, but it had to be budgeted for in the budget
It was
process.
paid yearly.
But it was still budgeted in the budget process. It had to be, because otherwise, where are you getting the money from?
I think she was just pulling it from the water and sewer utility. That's my understanding from what
Whoa,
Bill Hans was saying. It's paid out of the water and sewer funds
But it was being
Yes.
approved. That's why, do you understand what my point
by
is?
her.
Okay, but by her, but being paid by Bill Hans. And I'm not pointing fingers,
Yeah.
please believe me.
I'm being-
All I'm trying to do is understand how not to have this happen again.
well, first of all, the contract said right on the contract, signature of, it was like the person buying these services. And then it said second signature for required for authorization. Nobody ever signed
Oh,
this,
that's
nobody
problematic.
ever signed, she never brought it to any mayor to sign.
Well,
And
then it
they-
wasn't
so
about
they-
a contract in the first
No.
place.
So they accepted the contract without the correct signature, correct? Okay, yeah, that's
But I
understandable.
mean, I can only assume that, in the bill list, the system was there, that she probably said, oh, we've got this reverse 911 thing going on. Everybody approved it. They'll pay bills that don't have contracts all the time, so he's not looking for a contract to pay a
And
bill.
it's something we've been paying for 8 years. So, he just,
But not everything has contracts, that's the thing, not everything has contracts.
it was just an annual fee
It was
that
below
he's
the
paying yearly.
threshold.
But now we planned for it in its own bucket, it's not gonna sit under water and sewer.
Correct, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so we're, at least now we've recaptured where it sits,
Yeah, we know that there's a department head who owns it now.
yeah.
But just so you know, under municipal law, that position, utilities clerk, has no authority to sign anything on behalf of the council.
And that's how it's signed, utilities.
Right,
But if I were that company, I'm just telling you, because I've been in business and industry, I know how this is gonna go play down. And when you say I'm not gonna pay it, I hope that they have all the bills that you paid for 8 years.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden you're saying, well, this is not legal. Well, but you paid it for 8 years. So now all of a sudden you're saying you're gonna cancel it, et cetera, but you paid it for 8 years. That's the slippery slope. I'm just letting you guys know that's the slippery slope. I'm not saying it's not gonna go down fine, but the point of it is, from my standpoint, if I were in that company, I would be fighting it, because I would be going, well, wait a minute. You did this for 8 years and now you're telling me this is not legal because it didn't do this, this, and this, but you paid the bill every year for 8 years. And now all of a sudden it's a problem. So is it my problem or is it your problem? Right? That, I'm just giving you the
I
scenario.
look at it as
And
an
again,
empowered, I'm
I'm
looking
not,
at it as an empowered official and company officer and a compliance officer. And if that agreement came back to me unsigned, and I've experienced that coming in and reverse engineering compliance programs, I would say, oh, wow. Oh, wow,
I mean, this is,
I'm
this is,
not
we don't
saying
have a
that that's
fully- I
not
know,
true,
we don't
I'm
have a
just
fully
saying,
executed
there is a
agreement.
fight, all I'm saying is there is a fight, and they do have half a leg to stand on,
but
that's all I'm
this
saying.
is a company that vastly, their clients are municipal governments. So if they wanna come after a municipal government, it's gonna send out a ripple to every other municipal government. If they're willing to do that, and for $2,300.
That doesn't always work
It's
that way, but I hear you.
$2,400,
I hear you.
$2,300.
I'm not arguing the point, I'm just saying, okay,
I was
never
just-
mind, I don't wanna belabor the point,
No.
I'm just don't.
I get what you're
That's
saying.
all.
Right, I just want you to all know that this happened and, yeah, it's just not the government. So, all right, council reports, Councilman, Levitt.
Sure. On Arbor Day, Mayor Kara and I attended the Shade Tree Commission and Samuel Flemminghouse's tree planting, where we planted a lovely Okame cherry tree. The Shade Tree Commission's Adopt a Tree program has given out 7 trees so far this year, and we've got a decent amount of money in the budget, so if there are any interested residents out there who would like to adopt a tree, feel free to fill out the online application and get you set up with that. I had forgotten to mention in my last report, but the Raritan Headwaters cleanup on April 12th at the Flemington Baseball Raritan Complex was a great success. Councilman Arias and Chairwoman Cannon of the Shade Tree Commission joined me along with some other local volunteers, and we picked up over 1,000 pieces of litter on Saturday. Mayor Karen and I also had the pleasure of attending the grand opening of the Groovy Collective on Main Street, and if anybody asks, I was definitely able to cut the ribbon on my first try, and any footage or photos of me struggling to cut it about 5 times was fabricated to smear me. Yeah, it was
Let me see Councilman Levitt blush.
I don't know if that's true, but and lastly, on Friday, Councilman Park and I attended a meeting regarding the plans for the Black River and Western Railroad, I believe along with the county and the Flemington Improvement District to install a biking / pedestrian path in their right of way. And I assume there will be more information to come about that in the next few weeks. But as of right now, it looks like a very exciting project to provide some additional connectivity between Main Street and Stengel Arts and Cultural District.
And it's a county initiative.
Yes.
By the way. Just to be clear. Mhm.
And that's my report.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Fisher.
Mine's very simple. We did not have a planning board meeting last week due to just having we have the agenda for it. We are still looking for a planning board secretary. And as well, we will very soon see an advertisement for a new library director. And that's it.
Oh, good.
Okay, Council President Rucker.
Yeah, I don't really have that much, just 2 things, one is there, besides that meeting that we had, there was another meeting we had with the railroad, again, on, and I'll let Robin and those guys go through it a little bit more, because it's just a very preliminary meeting. Just to work with bringing both, Stengel together with Central Ave, with Ulper and that whole bit, which is a pretty interesting deep dive to make it more of a pedestrian type of thing. And take out all those danger type of turns and things like that that are going on in there. Just a really interesting conversation, so, we will pursue the conversation. There will be money there that they're pursuing, so. That was actually very, very interesting tied with this bike trail, so I'm pretty excited about it. And with that said, the council will be getting an invite along with the bid board, along with some of the county people and the whole bit, to go on the actual train to actually see the trail. And I know they did it before, and it was during the day, so a lot of you could not make it. I actually could not, I did the trail, but I couldn't actually make the train. So I've asked them to make sure that it's in the evening. So they're gonna look at targeting around 5 to 5:30. So just look in your mailbox for that one. I'm not sure when it's coming, but it's coming relatively soon because they really want to get this thing rolling. I think it's a great thing. The other thing that I will say is that on the zoning, I've been in contact with Beth. We are ready to move forward with giving recommendations for her to review. So as long as the council's okay with that, we're just gonna keep that going. And hopefully, the hope is to get that completed and her comments and will get back to the council and send that over to the planning board and hopefully we can get this all done by the end of the summer.
Who's on that committee?
Well, yeah, we talked about this. It's Susan and myself.
And it's just the, which district?
No, it's all zoning. It's all zoning. We're looking at all zoning. And that's it.
Okay. Councilman Aras.
Yeah, be honest with you, just been a really busy past 2 weeks with the weather getting better. I really do not have much to report, I'll be honest with you guys, so that'll be my report.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't always have to talk.
Okay. Councilman Long?
Sure, thank you. So I have just a report for OEM and something else. So this past weekend, the Flemington Borough CERT team deployed in support of the Find Your Peeps egg hunt on Main Street. CERT members played a vital role in ensuring the safety of event participants by staffing key Main Street crosswalks and maintaining a secure environment as children and families navigated the storefronts and searched for their hidden eggs. The presence was instrumental in creating a fun and safe experience for all. While the month of May is nationally recognized as a time to build or update disaster kits, the OEM encourages all residents to treat emergency preparedness as a year-round priority, maintaining an up-to-date disaster kit, creating a reliable family communication plan, and knowing local protocols or emergency alerts that are components of staying ready for any emergency. Last week was National Volunteer Appreciation Week. OEM would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the dedicated volunteers of the Borough CERT team. Your selfless service to service to the borough and your readiness to assist neighboring communities demonstrates true commitment, compassion, and teamwork. You're the heart of the emergency preparedness mission. We're excited to announce that the spring CERT training class kicks off on Saturday, May 3rd and runs Saturdays through May 17th, culminating in a final hands-on drill. It's a great opportunity for residents to gain valuable skills and become active participants in local emergency response efforts. To register, call 908-581-5513 or just email oem@historicflemington.com. A reminder that the borough is fully transitioned to its new emergency alerting system via Everbridge Nixle, effective April 1st. If you haven't registered yet, go to the borough page. Residents who need assistance or do not have internet access are encouraged to contact Borough Hall during regular business hours for help. The only other thing I had was this thing I'm doing. I'll tell you about it briefly. I did inform all council.
Yeah, it's actually pretty exciting.
So, this endeavor here is based on a little history of this, where we are right now. And if you've ever gotten a copy of the walking tour, all right, that the FCP put together, you have all these wonderful sites and mostly historical, really cool stuff, rich with history. And then like on the back towards the end, Borough Hall, it says the Flemington Lyceum Reading Academy, Borough Hall, an early site of the Reading Academy. This building served as the Lyceum, a center for public lectures and concerts, and a meeting place for temperance organizations. Flemington purchased it in 1922 for Borough Hall and the fire department. So, given that historical fact, I thought it was a bit coincidental that I was working on some sort of engagement event, and I decided to land on a monthly occurrence here in the spirit of the Lyceum movement, which is very old and has resurfaced across the nation in communities very much like ours. So I'm calling it the Flemington Lyceum Society. I put out some stuff on social media so far. Tonight I'd like to make it official. But the slogan is ideas worth sharing, community worth building. And I think that captures the spirit of what we're going for here. So I did ask council to consider perhaps leading a lecture, perhaps being a guest. That is obviously extended to the mayor, any borough employees, anybody who's on a committee here, a commission here, or you're just somebody who thinks they got something to share, or you might know somebody. And I wanna make this very community oriented. I don't wanna have it, I have it organized, but I'm not directing too much of it beyond hosting and just making sure things run smooth. But if people wanna have something to say, and I've got a list of topics that will be up on the borough website tomorrow at some point. And a structure for the lectures worked out. And it's very simple. It's exactly how, in a lot of ways, the Lyceum movement and societies did this. You have a focused topic, you have members of the community provide the information, you have a Q&A session, some conversation, you have some light refreshments, nothing fancy. And we have access to Borough Hall, we might have access to the courthouse, we'll see. But things like this start small. So I'm gonna focus it on Thursday nights, once a month, so May 22nd, I'll be doing what I would be calling the civic engagement, what's possible when a community connects, and that's gonna be on May 22nd, 7 p.m. I'm gonna land here for it. If there's too much interest and it looks like we've got more than 50 people, we'll move it, but otherwise, I'm thinking it'll start small. So I wanted to reach out to the public, I will be doing that through social media, but I wanted to officially invite people. If you have ideas beyond the topics I've come up with, you are certainly free to roll those around, and they might even fit under those somehow. We got plenty of time to plan all this. As a matter of fact, I'm working on my presentation and working on getting a couple of guests lined up. But that's the origin point, that's how it's gonna work, and then from there, just real quick, I'll run through the titles of these, and this is gonna run through to December. So May is the one I just said, June, and these can change order, but June, I'm thinking, for local business as civic infrastructure. And I'm gonna have little bullet points to kind of direct people if they look at something and say, oh, I could answer that, I could really speak to that. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people to jump on these topics. Who lives here? Housing access and equity in our town, public spaces, shared places where we gather matters. How a town works inside Flemington's local government, and I would assume some of us up here would be interested in that one. Youth and civic voice, are we listening to the next generation? The role of arts and culture in building civic identity. And finally, the future of Flemington, envisioning a town we all build together. So I directed this to really focus on the community aspect. Everything's about community. And it's basically, if you think you got the know-how and you wanna talk to some folks, and maybe you wanna be a guest, you wanna get involved. Maybe you own an establishment that has like free stuff you wanna give out, I'm just saying, that's the kind of idea. So, and the last thing I wanted to say about it is, let me just double check. Yeah, so the lectures I just ran through are all subject to change, but if you think you can help, you think you know someone's got a good story around here, you know, we know there's a lot of people in this town with quite a bit to share and teach us. Please get in touch with me, you can contact me, email jlong@historicflemington.com or call or text, and that number is 609-608-2763. And finally, just real quick, if you're wondering, like, what are the logistics, it's pretty basic. I want musicians to come in, just real simple stuff, acoustic guitars, you know, we're not looking for a big symphony to come in here, but if we got a small one, that's cool. But play for about the first half hour, and then we have some opening remarks about the lecture that you're gonna hear, the actual lecture itself, which would be about 15 minutes, we don't wanna push it. You got people that are gonna be coming here at night, you got about 15 to 20 minutes of attention span, so you gotta keep it concise. Then we can have some guest stories related perhaps to the lecture that was just heard, then some Q&A session from anybody. And then the closing remarks, and the event concludes with more music and optional mingling. And I know we have a lot of people in town who can do those things, and I want them to know that I'm looking for help. I need your help. I'm not gonna do all these lectures, that's gonna be crazy. I do that all day anyway, so. And I guess that was it. And unless anybody has any questions for me right now from the council, I'm hoping that this is something that works out. So to the residents, All right, to the folks in Flemington Borough, if you have an idea, if you think you know somebody great story, you think want to help out music, food, or organizing, please get in touch with me. All right, so I did have a couple people just get in touch with me today, so which is really cool. But that's it. Thanks.
You know, you might wanna reach out to Margaret Booth, because she's got such a great story. And I think that would be really perfect in terms of the history of the town and
Yeah,
what she's seen, and
for sure.
I think that might be a good person to reach out to.
Thank you, Tony.
Anything else?
Now, before we move on, I have one quick question, unfortunately not about that. There was an article that came out about nonprofit status in the fire department.
Oh,
I just wondered if anybody had any.
let me, can I circle back to that after Susan's report?
No rush.
Okay, Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Sure, thank you. Very quickly, I have three things. We had a park cleanup planned for last Saturday morning, and with the weather report, we canceled it. Because I don't know about you, but I,
Canceled or postponed?
well, we canceled it with a date rescheduled to be determined.
Okay.
So, I actually, had an opportunity to, I was reached out, the Habitat for Humanity, reached out to me and, was interested in doing a program there. And we already actually had the Boy Scouts, already build, some birdhouses for last Saturday's event. So I'm hoping now to get the two groups to coordinate the same date, and that's why the date will be to be determined. I still have to hear back from one of the two groups. So we'll reschedule that. I'll let you know when. On Saturday, I stopped by. I wanted to thank the police department and especially Sergeant Hebert, who did a toy and food drive at Safe Harbor. My husband and I stopped by there, and the kids were just thrilled, and with all the generous donations of all the toys, it was like Christmas in April. So it was a lot of fun to stop by and see all the smiley faces. So thank you to the sergeant and the police department for organizing that toy and food drive. And then finally, since nobody mentioned it, I did want to remind everybody that this weekend is the town yard sale, May 3rd and 4th. If Carla, if you would be so kind to remember to post that on I know it's already posted on the website in the calendar, but maybe something a little bigger, and I can roll it over to Facebook. I'd be happy to do that, and that way people can post the addresses of their sales. Everybody, hope they're successful.
Thank you. Okay, so just circling back to Councilman Levitt's question, so apparently, the story I was told by the fire department is that many years ago, they had a volunteer treasurer who took care of their filing their taxes. They're not their charitable status, and he passed away. And somebody else has been doing their treasurer stuff ever since. And about 7 years ago, the fire department applied to Google for a .org address. And when Google did their due diligence, they denied the fire department because they said they were not a registered charity. In looking at it, what this former deceased treasurer had done when he filed their taxes, the last year he filed them, he inadvertently used Flemington Borough's tax ID number instead of the fire department's. And even though we're not for profit, we're not a charity, right? So at that point, the fire department thought it would be easy to straighten that out. Turned out not to be easy. They went through 3 different congressmen trying to get this straightened out. And our current congressman is the one who actually got the IRS to, and it wasn't the state of New Jersey was fine. They fixed that right away, but the IRS was difficult. So it took 7 years and 3 congressmen to get their charitable ID number back reinstated and their status reinstated. And that was holding them up from applying for grants. They couldn't apply for any grants, which they used to get all the time. So now they're back in business to do that. So that's the story. Thank you. So, we invited the congressman down to say thank you to him, and unfortunately, Councilman Long got there 15 minutes late, because it was very quick, it was a very quick thank you. And that was the end of that, so. All right, public comment session number 1, please keep your comments down to 3 minutes. Have any? Jeff, can you keep your comments down to 3 minutes?
100%.
Come on up then. Okay. Need your name and address for the record?
Jeff Kane, 54 Broad Street here in Flemington. I'm here tonight to thank council and the mayor in advance for putting the resolution on the agenda in support of the project to restore, revitalize and reopen the Flemington Raritan Community Pool under the auspices of the YMCA of River Crossing, which was Hunterdon County YMCA and now spans the Delaware River into Pennsylvania. This is, I believe, the 3rd such resolution, maybe 4th, that council prospectively is putting into place. And I have to say that these matter. The first one was instrumental in us getting a $750,000 earmark through then Congressman Malinowski. And that money we're successfully able to get from HUD to start drawing on and working on the pool, fortunately. And we're continuing to work both in looking for philanthropy and also other government funds and making progress in that regard. So this is a very important project. For those of you who don't know, the pool was built in, I think, 1963. Apparently the chief of police, who supposedly used to sell Christmas trees, the single chief of police in the borough, opened it or spearheaded the opening of the pool to provide a place for wayward youth to not be so wayward. And it closed in about 2017 due to physical issues that were beyond the pool's capabilities to fix. So it's been closed for about 7 or 8 years now. It's going to take several $1 million to fix and reopen, but we're very optimistic at the Y that we'll be able to do that. Hopefully have it open next year, 2027 may be more likely, and provide a place for the community to have recreation again. Seniors, children, families, anybody who wants to spend time outside between May and September. So thanks in advance for continuing to support this project with this resolution. This is really impactful. It's key to us being successful in unlocking the support of other groups. So thank you all so much.
Okay, was that Bart Evans? Was?
Yep.
Okay. Childhood nightmares. Okay,
Are we gonna be allowed to ask questions during the public hearings, or should I go now about the?
if you have any comments on any public hearings, they won't be counted unless you do it during the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay. You can make them now, but it's just, and it doesn't count.
I wanted to count.
Okay, all right, approval of minutes, special meeting April 11th, 2025,
Long move.
your second,
Engelhardt will second.
roll call, all in favor?
Aye.
Regular meeting April 14th, 2025. The motion,
Parker move.
your second,
Oh, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I had a comment on that one, which I did send a minor typo that I already sent to Carla before the meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Executive session April 14th, 2025, is there a motion?
I will move.
Your second,
Oh, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda, resolution 2025-70, resolution approving Gabino Carriega for admission to active membership in the state of New Jersey Firemen's Association.
Long move.
Is there a second?
Parker second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Arias.
Yes.
Councilman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zasara.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt.
Yes.
Council Vice President Long.
Yes.
And Council President Parker.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-15 is introduction. An ordinance amending 7A traffic schedules to restrict the permitted gross weight of trucks on Fourth Street between Park Avenue and Main Street to 4 gross tons. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Purcell move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
This is in response to the complaints that we had of the lost Costco truck that took out somebody's sidewalk. Which Jay our Troutman, our traffic consultant, informed the parking committee that that truck should never have even been on Park Avenue, which is a 10-ton weight restriction, and that truck was beyond 10 tons. Mike Campion said that a lot of these trucks are using residential routes instead of the trucking routes when they use their GPS, so he was like really lost. So he was on 2 streets he shouldn't have been on. Okay, public hearing number 1.
I didn't do roll call.
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry, roll call please.
Councilman Arman.
Before we do roll call, I'm sorry, let me just ask you a question. So this is, because what it's saying down here, it says, these streets, so Park, Main and Port, I get. But then I'm seeing Highland Avenue, Elmwood Avenue.
You're already all restricted.
Maple. all
Yeah,
that.
this is just an amendment to the existing ordinance.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of restrictions all over this town, so.
I got a quick question, just, it's an odd question perhaps, but, so the weight restrictions are in effect on certain streets. How do,
Lots of streets.
yeah, how do you deliver like stuff that's in a big truck, like?
Local deliveries are all accepted.
Those are essentially exempted across the board.
Okay,
So if you have a
We
10-ton
always have
truck,
local-
you're moving, and it's a moving van, they're allowed to come down. But Costco just making a delivery and leaving is not.
Can't use a car.
that's the distinction, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
For all the ones we've been doing, true of all,
So you can make deliveries.
Yes.
so always exempt. I
It just
think in
gives
every
the
instance,
police
yeah.
some power then. if
Correct,
they're
and we
in the
have
wrong place at
signage
the wrong
as you
time.
enter a lot of those streets that say what the restriction is, and then under it says local deliveries allowed. So
We discussed this issue at the.
it's on
committee.
like Emery's one that is specifically that way.
Okay.
Ordinance 2025 dash 12. Okay, stop, not go. All right,
Done.
go ahead.
Councilwoman
Carla.
Moore,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasaro.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council Vice President Long.
Yes.
And Council President Parker.
Yes.
And when's the public hearing?
The public hearing will be May 14th, the night of the budget. 12, thank you, May 12th. All right, ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance amending section 16 special events, chapter 3 police regulations to clarify fee assessments for certain events. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Purcell move.
Is there a second?
Levitt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ordinance is now open to the public for comment. Anybody wishing to make comment on this ordinance, you have to come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And that's it.
I'm up now.
Okay, now it's on the record.
Okay. Ally Norton, 29 East Main Street and 52 Main Street. Am I allowed to ask questions, like clarifying questions?
It's really, well, clarifying, yeah, I mean, it's really a comment period, but if you have questions, our attorney is here and he can answer them. And our sergeant is here and he can answer them.
Okay, so, my first question is on, in section 1, C, it says, at the end that, any events canceled by the applicant less than 14 business days prior to the event are required to pay for services. What is that fee? Is that the,
It's whatever whatever's been escrowed, correct, Sergeant?
Correct.
so that would be whatever you have determined is the minimum spend
The
plus
minimum
anything else?
staffing requirements, so if the DPW director completes his assessment and says he needs 8 DPW workers, then the escrow amount would go in for the 8 DPW workers. If the chief says there's 6 police officers, the 4-hour minimum goes in for the 6 police officers. If the event's canceled prior to the 14 business days, then you'd be responsible for the fees.
Okay, and then in the next part, D of section 1, it's mentions of only events sponsored by the borough. How does one become an event sponsored by the borough?
So the borough historically has only sponsors 3 events, only sponsors 3 events.
Okay.
the Christmas parade,
Mhm.
the Memorial Day parade, and the fireworks. And by sponsoring, it means we pay and eat the DPW and the police, so you will never be a sponsored organization. Because we just don't have that kind of money.
Okay.
So that's what sponsorship means to, you know, to,
Mayor, if I may, I think the best way of defining it is a event generated inside these walls.
oh.
Is that fair way of saying
That
it?
is fair.
Ryan, Sean, I mean, I
Yes,
think
correct.
That is fair.
something that says that we are, as opposed to like something that a civic organization. I think
Okay.
that is the line of
Yeah.
delineation, which traditionally Mayor,
That's gonna be explained to me.
right?
Right, there
I
is
mean,
Essentially a borough run event.
Borough decides, you guys authorize Memorial Day parade.
Right.
That's coming from this group here, done by these guys and everyone else, so that I think is the line of
I think
demarcation.
that's a really good
Yeah,
question.
so.
Thank you, that's very clear. And the last question would be, at the end there, it says that events that are canceled due to inclement weather and require borough services must be rescheduled with the submission of a new application. What is the process for rescheduling? Like, how quickly can an event be rescheduled and what is the timeline for approval? Because it's 90 days according to the ordinance for when we have to submit the first time for an event, but what would the follow-up be?
You wanna take this one, Brian?
Well, yeah, sure, so what this is gonna be is like Corbury Tomatoes is a bad example, cause we would allow.
We are allowing a rain.
We're gonna allow a rain date for Corbury Tomato, so the council
For
can.
like forever or just for
Well,
this year?
so each year when the application is submitted, it would go before governing body to approve a rain date for it. Okay, so that's how we would operate it. Any application could technically come before the council to be approved for a rain date, correct?
Yeah, I mean.
So,
nothing stops
But
us.
it's the borough's policy that only certain events will be issued rain dates due to staffing concerns, right?
Okay,
So now, so let's use Central Jersey Jazz Festival, even though it's rain or shine, we'll just use that as an example, right? If a hurricane were to come up and there's a state of emergency declared, okay, the event would be canceled due to that inclement weather, due to the state of emergency. So certain fees would not be at the cost of the applicant because that's an act of God, right? So that's specifically outlined in the collective bargaining agreement for the police, if for any reason due to a state of emergency, due to that, the applicant would not be held to that. If your event is completely pre-planned and we're canceling it 3 days in advance, I would say there's no reason why we couldn't bring that back and roll that over within 14 business days to reschedule the event. If it's already pre-planned, all your paperwork's in, we're ready to go, and it's being canceled the day before the.
As long as you have staff.
Yeah.
Right, provided that the departments approve it, but it would go back through the application process and DPW would say yes,
I
the
think
police would
one
say
of
But
yes.
that needs to be very clear, right? Because I think the point of it is, and this is what I think I'm hearing, and I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth,
Okay.
believe me. But that's not clear. That's not clear to say that you have XYZ days to do that. You're saying, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it within 14
But
days.
I
That's
would,
not locked in stone.
Yeah, but
So all I'm saying is, I'm back into processes again, right? And this is where things go awry, is that we need to make sure that it's specifically spelled out.
I don't think you can because you may not be able to get enough DPW workers to work an event 2 weeks after one thing is canceled, but you could 2 weeks after something else is canceled. I think the
But
issue.
but Marcia, hold on, that's not necessarily true. The point of it is that it has to, you can define something, you can say if it's 30 days or whatever, and then the event committee has the right to say, listen, that date is already taken, you have the option of selecting another date, an alternative date.
so if I may,
But I think one of the issues is that the big events take the police a while to do the security on.
Mhm.
That's like one of the biggest drag times
yeah,
is getting, because not only do they have to approve it, they have to send it down to the state police. So because that's already done, you know, I think that shortens up the review time significantly. It really comes down to, are there enough police and DPW workers to work overtime?
sure, and I understand that, and what I would like to say to council as you are making your decision on this is that, and you can say Gordon Tomato Beer may be like grandfathered in to have a rain date, but based on the way this ordinance is written, and that is the only thing that I care about, is I'm not here to judge the intention, I'm here to say, as someone who plans alongside Cyber than the biggest event that the borough has, which is Corn Tomato Beer, and other events that we would like to be able to have a rain date for, but understand that that's not always possible. Say that, you know, this, based on it, in the event of inclement weather requiring us to cancel Corn Tomato Beer, for example, at some point. We would be required, FID, to pay nearly 40K, which is 80% of our Corn Tomato Beer budget. Just to be able to pay the fees that it costs us for the borough, DPW and police and everything that we need to have it canceled and then rescheduled at some point in the future. Get that word out, see if we can even do it, because if it's not a rain date in advance that we tell our 300 vendors about, then there's no guarantee they can then do whatever the next date we pick is. That would require us to spend a lot more money or make the decision that we're not gonna reschedule
If it was denied a rain date, but it's,
So this is.
But there's nothing in the
When we-
ordinance that says that you can apply for that separately, so
when
I'm
we-
asking.
When we discussed this whole ordinance, it
Mm-hmm.
was keenly stressed that corn beer tomato is the largest event in the borough. And I think as long as it stays a robust, large event, you're always gonna be granted a rain date by council. But if
But
it's-
I think that should be in writing because
Can't.
the.
we can't.
Mhm.
Our attorney advised that we should not.
You can't
Okay.
do it. You can't, it's special legislation, you can't do it.
So it's an internal policy within the event committee that we would grant corn beer tomato.
So let me make sure that I understand this, because, hold on, can I-
Go ahead, go.
let me just make sure I understand this. Because there's two concerns here, and I hear them. One are the fees. So if you're canceling this event, and it clearly says in here that you have to pay XYZ fees. Are you saying that corn tomato beer is gonna be exempt from that? That's the first question. The second thing is.
Well, they have a rain date, so they'd be fine.
So they don't have to, but again, things have got to be in writing, but you've got to spell this out,
But we
right?
can't.
But you can spell that out, you certainly can, why can't you? You can say that they don't have to pay for it, that they're not gonna be penalized because they had to do a rain date. That's the question, because if she has to go back, they have to go back and pay all these people all over again, that's a lot of
But
money.
as soon as they apply, Sergeant McNally is gonna bring it to council and say, corn beer tomato just applied, here's the date, here's the rain date. Put in a resolution, the council's gonna vote to give them the rain date. They're gonna know upfront they've
But
got
there's
the
not
rain
gonna be
date.
any cost,
That can be right in the resolution.
but that's
why-
my point,
But
that's
why
the
wouldn't
point.
it be? They got a rain date, that's what it means.
But
Is it the individual relief we grant from our ordinance that we sometimes do, not often, but enough? That's how I've always handled it with ordinances where there is a exception, right? By resolution, you can do it by stating the reason therefore in the rest, we've done it 2 or 3 times in my time
Right.
here, I do it in all my towns. Because it's, you need to have that sort of flexibility,
Exactly.
right?
But it would be in the
Makes sense.
It's
resolution.
in the resolution.
In the
in the
resolution,
ordinance.
corn beer tomato is granted a rain date and they will not have to pay a second time.
That's all she's saying, that's all she's saying.
Yeah, I'm just asking for
And you would know that.
clarification because.
Not have to pay what?
Any addition, you wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to
the
pay
escrow.
cancellation fees.
Your escrow would
Would
roll
be
to
okay.
to the rain date. Your escrow would roll to.
You don't have to shove out any more money.
Okay, so I appreciate the clarification on corn tomato beer. And I'm assuming then that we'd be able to apply for that exact same thing if we had additional events, or is there a cap on how much one organization can have? Like, so, for example, at this point, we are not gonna reschedule any other events because our budget cannot handle, like, we can't, if the witch walk, for example, gets canceled because of weather, we're not gonna double dip and pay a second time to have that event, right? Because it's too much money for us,
Be right on.
we don't have a huge budget. And it, becomes, it inhibits our ability to put on some events because of the financial implication for us. And I'm assuming that while we may be the most vocal, there are other groups who would also, I mean, I think you guys said you have 35 events, and if there's only 3 that are borough sponsored, that would leave 32 that are not. So we're only a handful of those, that this is gonna be an issue where it is, one, it's going to make it so that we can't reschedule a lot of events and that we're gonna be paying pretty exorbitant fees and get nothing in return, lose money in many ways. But the other thing is, and I'm just going to say that when the initial meeting was held where this was discussed, months and months ago, Councilman Parker asked why the FID was not included. I understood it was an internal meeting. But when the people who are going to be impacted do not have a seat at the table to have this discussion and bring it up, we then get put in a position where we see this and we're like, I don't think the intention is to screw people, but it feels a lot like our budget was passed and now we're having to sit here and say, bring back to our board, does it make sense for us to be investing in these events when there's a chance that we have to pay these fees?
So the issue for the council, which was raised to us by our DPW superintendent, is that for every rain date, our DPW and our police department have to put those entire weekends on reserve. Which means they cannot accept the wedding, they cannot accept the long weekend down at LBI, they cannot accept the family party. So it may not sound like a lot when it's only 3 events or 4 events to you, but that's 6 or 8 weekends.
With all due
for them.
respect, I'm a small business owner and I don't get to say yes to a lot of things either. It's part of my job description and I've decided that that is okay. Neither here nor
But
there.
under the public.
If that is what the policy is going to be,
It's not
then
just
it.
policy, under public employment law, we cannot make our employees work events that are not part of their core job description, and that's the law. So you can book all you want, they don't have to show up, so they're agreeing to give up weekends to do this.
But I think what Ally is saying,
When they approve it.
correct me again if I'm wrong, this is what I heard. Is that there were some decisions made and they did not have a seat at the table. And so what she's saying is all of this could be resolved, would never come up if they had a seat at the table to at least be able to explain what their angst would be or what the impact would be.
I think we
That's what
understand,
she's
I
saying.
think we understand what their position is and ours is opposite, so.
But Brian,
I don't
no,
think it's
wait a minute.
opposite. I
Stop,
think that's
stop,
an
stop. That's not true,
oversimplification.
stop that. The point of it is you're drawing a line in the sand, you
You're allowed to
can't
speak.
draw a line in the sand. They do deserve to have a seat at the table.
No, I'm not
They
saying
do
that, but
deserve that,
I'm not saying they don't deserve to have a seat and we.
but they weren't had a seat at the table, that's the point, that's what she's trying to explain. If we had a seat at the table, then we could discuss this.
But again, how many organizations, Councilman, are we going to bring in to the table then? Because if we bring FID in, why do we not bring the United Way in? Why do we not bring?
Okay, wait a minute, that's.
Wait, I need
apples and
to bring this meeting
Apples and
back, so I'm
oranges.
sorry, guys. This is a public comment period. It is not a public discussion. You want to vote down this ordinance, you can vote it down, but it's a comment period. Councilwoman Engelhardt had a legal procedural question for our attorney.
Yeah, Chris, you had explained earlier the reasoning behind keeping the verbiage out and saying that we could throw it in like we do in other cases. You
say
know,
throw it in, like, what do you mean?
when you said I've done it in other towns, you said and.
Oh, so I always.
Is there a legal precedence for that, or is it just something that you recommend in
So
general?
there's 2 separate principles, right? The principle of called special legislation, but it's.
That's what you mentioned before.
Yeah, it's
Can you
analogous,
explain that
it's
to both
anal-
us and to
Yeah,
Al?
so it's really analogous from a state law principle, but I think it certainly applies to the municipal level too. Where you cannot specifically exempt from your lawmaking groups or not groups, but events, right? Like calling out like, well, we're gonna apply this to everyone in our ordinance except for one very specific channel, very specific event. It's very common in state law, Mary may remember it from her time in the legislature. I also believe it personally, as a practitioner, believes it applies in the municipal level, right? Contrary to that, or parallel to that, if you will, is I've always thought, it's never been tested in the court, I've always said this, never been tested in the court. But I think that a municipality, I think as a principle of governance, can specifically exempt organizations from their ordinance via resolution, if that resolution states with specificity the reasoning for that exemption. So a reviewing court could determine whether the exemption was properly granted.
You mean, you don't mean this resolution, you mean a resolution per resolution per
What do you
resolution
mean,
in the future?
You mean ordinance to resolution?
You don't mean this ordinance.
I don't mean
you
that ordinance.
Resolution by resolution,
It's a subtle
that we
difference, but,
recommend.
yeah, it's a subtle difference, but I do think that you need to give a reviewing court on the second part of it, Susan, Councilwoman, a reviewing court the reasoning so they could review it and say, all right, the municipality acted correctly, the municipality acted incorrectly, right? And then the anyone who wished to challenge that would have the opportunity to avail themselves of a challenge, knowing what the reasoning is.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
The FID was created and is part of our ordinance, unlike other.
What is the FID? What is the FID?
The Flemington Improvement District,
Okay.
for many years we DBA,
You
but
can't change their
Flemington
name, only
Community
the
Partnership.
council can change the name by ordinance, FTP and the ordinance.
our official name is Flemington Improvement District, the DBA was Flemington Community Partnership.
Okay, so we're
Okay.
going by FID now?
We're going by our official name.
Okay,
The FID was created by and is part of our municipal ordinance. So as a result, is there some precedent to give them a overall exemption or be part of this ordinance in our,
You wanna expand,
the
so
ordinance?
earlier 15 minutes ago, I discussed what I thought the appropriate definition for borough-sponsored events was, right?
And that was clear, thank you.
Yeah, you could say you wanted to go a step further. I wouldn't have a problem with this legally if you did.
Mhm.
If you wanted to go a step further and say, well, the FCP, the FID, whatever it is, whatever, legal nomenclature here. Okay, so we're gonna say that the umbrella, we're gonna take a step further out for borough sponsored, beyond the somewhat narrow definition I gave you. I would have no problem with that, by the way.
Okay,
And go-
legally, you wouldn't have a problem.
I wouldn't, because if it is, I haven't looked at the FCP FID ordinance, I haven't, but I can, and if it was in the code, you could say if you wanted, any organization contemplated in the Flemington Borough Code, pardon me, that I do not think would be like special legislation. I think that would then extend the exemption you're providing for the 3 events at the borough, and like I said, I have no legal problem with this. Extend that protection to anything that was sponsored in whole or in part by the FCP. I have no issue with that if you wanna go in that direction. I
My
don't think there's a
question,
legal problem.
my question would just be if we can put in here that there are exemptions that you can apply for, or so, there has, I just. And now I'm hearing Corn Tomato Beer is the one that when we apply, we can ask for a rain date. It says in here that only events that are sponsored by the Borough of Flemington are allowed to. There is no language that specifies that there's anything different. So when I read it, I just wanna understand for me and for other organizations that there is a possibility. I'm gonna read the very last sentence of mine because
my
I'm gonna then get.
understanding on this ordinance is that any organization can always apply.
So she wants that in the ordinance, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that.
It says only events that are sponsored by the Borough of Flemington shall be eligible for a rain date under this chapter at the time of application.
There's a difference between eligible and asking for one.
Yeah, so if you wanted to add
It
that language,
says-
I wouldn't have a
And it
problem.
says at the time of application, so you
Right,
can't
it
apply
says you
for the rain
cannot apply for a rain date.
at the application. That doesn't mean we can't grant one now. Right, I think that's what the intention was,
Always has the
Chris,
power to grant a rain date, always.
That is very unclear.
If Chris doesn't have a problem with it, why are we going
Yeah.
back and forth on this? I mean, he's advised us and saying this is what we can do. Let's just do that, because then it clarifies everything, and you know what, I keep going back to this. It doesn't matter what we do today, we may not be here next year, all of us, and the year after that can change, and the year after that can change. So the point of it is once it's in writing, it's good to go.
So I'm just gonna finish this, so I'm gonna wrap my time up, but what I'm gonna say is based on the fact that there is so much information that appears to be unclear, and I find myself to be a pretty intellectual person, and I had a hard time when going through this, understanding that there was anything more than if you're not a borough sponsored event, which is not defined, but now I understand it, you don't get to apply for a rain date. That looks like it's pretty black and white. If it's not, I would like there to be some way for it to make it understandable to people applying that it's not. But I will say, based on all of this, I ask that council does not pass this until those, particularly the FID who host the largest event in the borough, are part of a thoughtful discourse on a solution that doesn't inhibit the ability to host events that are critical to Flemington, but also does not put out the DPW and the police. Thank you.
The only problem with that I have no issue with adding language, like, not at all. You have time, you have deadlines, right, you're scraping up against them, you have to put this forward.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, we'll just have, like I said 2 meetings ago, at this point. My recommendation would be, we continue to refine this and just move forward with the current policies that's in place for the rest of this year at this juncture. I mean,
I think
we're-
you
Can I
should,
ask a quick question?
But I wanna hear what,
I think you should do that, because we all know, you guys know the procedure now, and you guys are the main movers and shakers here. We'll just chase it with an amendment very quickly, next 2 weeks from now. That way he can still do what he needs to do, but we can get the clarification that was discussed, and now, oh, that's a win-win, I think.
Go ahead, Ines.
Are you suggesting tabling it, because that's what I'd like.
no, no,
Only for what
Brian,
Brian said he's up against the
the
deadline.
police
You
are
can
under
table
a
it too.
deadline to get these applications through.
You can table it if you want, I'm not gonna, you do what you want.
But I just thought I heard, I mean, maybe what I thought I just heard. That Brian is willing, is at this point in the calendar year, that Brian's accepted that we're gonna be moving forward with the system we have in place now. So that we can thoughtfully go over this more, so why wouldn't we table this
I mean,
and
we
let
can
him
do
go
that
forward
through
with
the
the
events
system he
committee
has?
and certain events just may not have rain dates approved through the committee.
Right,
I just have a problem with us rushing everything.
It wasn't rushed,
Huh,
oh
yes,
my
it is.
gosh.
Every
We talked about this up here.
I understand, but Marcia,
I-
stop, please let me finish and stop shouting at me,
I'm
please.
not.
You are, you're getting
Your
loud.
voice
That's
is
just-
not loud.
Yeah, but it is to me, I'm talking about me speaking, please, thank you, but here's the point. My point of it is that they brought up a lot of stuff. And so now it's like, let's just pass it and then we go back and correct it, what I'm saying is that just feels like rushing it. It's not the whole process that was rushed, Marcia, I'm not saying that, so please, I'm trying to
Okay,
clarify
I
what
got
I'm
it,
saying.
I got it.
That's
But
what I'm
Brian
saying.
can still do his work that he needs to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
while this gets wordsmithed and sorted out.
Right, the issue is we have some applications pending where applicants are putting down multiple rain dates.
Yeah, that's
And that-
unacceptable.
And
Yeah,
that, and the
that's-
council was unanimous about
That's
the
the
ratings.
issue.
Everybody up here, all 6 of you were adamant to not do the rain dates because it was just too much of a burden on our staff, and
And I don't
that's
think
why.
that's changed, Marcia, I don't think that's changed.
I-
I think
I
you're
just have
mixing
something
apples
real
and
quick.
oranges, I really do. I think
No,
what
Adrian
we're
goes
talking
next.
about, I think we're talking about this specific thing, we're not talking about all the rain dates. I think you're mixing apples and oranges.
You're just talking about the clarification of the language.
Right,
definition.
that's
Adrian,
the point.
you go, you were next.
No,
You already forgot, okay.
No, I know what it is, but I
Okay.
think like,
I
I guess,
love it.
I guess really my concern is, okay, so let's say we have this, we don't have public works employees to do the cleanup afterwards, like.
Well, and then
Are
what's
these
happened last year, that
organizations
happened with Salsa Night last
Right.
year where there was
There
no,
were only a couple of guys out there, I was out there
Right.
that night. So can the organizations have like some sort of commitment where they'll bring in their crew and clean it up?
No, it's not,
You mean
the organization- there have been events here where all their people left. I know that's for our DPW high time, so you can't count on that, they've got to put up the escrow, and the escrow has to be supported by the DPW and the police saying, we will be there.
Yeah.
Why can't we say,
I definitely.
no, we're done with this for now, you're not up here, so.
my turn?
Not yet.
Yeah,
Councilman
Councilman
Levitt?
Levitt.
And real quick question here. I don't see we're striking through anything in this ordinance, right? We're not removing any language? So is there somewhere in the ordinance that says we provide rain dates? As it is, or is that just something we did?
Just
No,
for
the
girls.
council,
It
the
doesn't.
council
It doesn't.
all unanimously said,
Mhm.
we're not gonna do the rain dates, only for Corn Beer Tomato
So,
when
but
they
you said
apply.
people are applying for rain dates.
so our application always had a
Is it that we're
field
not-
on it
we're
that
not-
allowed for people to request a rain date.
So
Can
maybe
we
it's
just
the
take that off?
form that needs to be changed.
Right,
Correct.
can we just take that
But that
off?
has
Right, that's, it's been done for 2025,
Okay.
but we also have applicants even just writing in the margins,
Can I-
these are my
Can
request for rain dates.
I really wanna stop all this conversation up here until until the public hearing is done.
Sure.
And then you guys can all go back to having your discussion. So I wanna get back to the public hearing for your comments.
Thank you very much. My comment is, I have never done events as a solo person. I do them as a team. I've never done an event in a town that didn't require my becoming an absolute part of the team with
the municipality and all the departments and all the department heads and all the people who work for the department. There isn't a single person who works for a department who I don't feel is part of my team, who I treat with respect as a team member. It is hard as hell to plan events because of the weather. You know, it's hard to plan events because of the extreme costs. It's so hard, I can't even begin to tell you, but what makes it even harder is not feeling like we're working as a team. So if we have a problem where the amount of events in this town are causing pressure, or we don't have enough personnel to do the events we plan, I've said to you many times, maybe we shouldn't do corn, tomato, and beer. If we don't have the right teams to do them, let's not do it. I don't wanna do something that we're not prepared to do. I don't do those kind of events. But for me not to be included in a conversation about how do we solve for any problems that our events are creating for other people is not good teamwork. It's not being a part of a team. So I'm really frustrated because thinking we were being sensitive to the problem, offered 3 potential rain dates. I would have picked any date in the book to be sensitive to the DPW, to the police, to the problem. And instead, you know, I felt like we got cast as being greedy rain date hoarders. You know, we want to help solve this problem. If we have to hire outside people, we'll hire outside people. I mean, you know, I think there's lots of ways to solve this, but for us not to have a genuine conversation about what is the problem and how do we solve it is very problematic to
Honestly,
me.
Robin, corn, beer, tomato isn't the issue.
The FID events are not the issue. I don't know why you guys are tasking yourselves as a villain.
I understand that, but when we read this ordinance without being included in a conversation where anybody said any of the things that are being said here and now, it does feel like somehow and it was mentioned that we asked for 3 rain dates, and we only asked for them because we were trying to acknowledge that, you know, I heard that if we have the event on Saturday and then we go to Sunday, that's a problem. So we were like, okay, what if we go to, you know, 2 weekends out, the next weekend, the following weekend, or we'll do it in October.
All yours made sense. They weren't, corn, beer, tomato, never the problem here.
So why aren't we having conversations with the people who are the problem, or if it's that it's just too many events and you have to pick, whatever the problem is, we really wanna be a part of the solution.
I will.
The other thing I wanted to say is that, you know, I do think we would really love to understand the process of becoming a borough-sponsored event. I do think that the historic house tours are considered a borough-sponsored event. They follow.
There is no police overtime, 13 runs it.
There you go. So this is the issue,
Yes,
is the DPW and the police, the overtime is very expensive.
we know.
And so, I mean,
Believe me, we know, because we pay close to $10,000 plus 6, plus 2,
Right.
almost $20,000 to do corn, tomato, and beer.
Right, so, you know, honestly, we do 3 events, we eat the whole thing. And the fireworks takes several days to set up. The parade, the guys are out there a day or 2 ahead of time setting things up. I mean, personally, with the way our budget is, we just don't have the money. You know, I mean, we got a guy who just does nothing but raise money for fireworks. We'd have to have someone who just raises money for overtime.
I'm not asking to be a borough-sponsored event, but
That's, the sponsorship is getting, I mean, you want the consideration of being able to have a rain day for each of your events. Is that what you want, or do you
I
want us
think
to?
that I want the consideration of being invited to the meeting where we look for solutions to
So let
rain
me
dates.
simplify this.
Because for
It goes
example.
back to what Susan
sorry.
was just saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, legally, I don't know, I'm thinking federal now. It is like a quasi extension of the borough. Because does right, we approve their budget, we so they really are a quasi organization to the borough. So what I think I'm hearing from Robin and Ally is that if we are a quasi organization, then why aren't we a part of the conversation? I think that's what they're asking. I really do. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay, so I think that's what they're asking. So we're going back and forth on things, but I think that's the crux of the problem is that they are, and I don't think anyone has ever really recognized it until Susan said it, that they are a quasi part of the municipal
Well, the
government.
original intention of when the events committee sat down to do this draft ordinance for the council was to get the council to then approve it and then get it over to FCP to look at it. But we were running out of time because Brian is under this stressful deadline to get something done. So that was the original intention, was for you all to have a bite at the apple. But there was a lot of issues between Brian and Chris writing this ordinance. There was a lot of, I mean, it took a very long time to write this
It was
ordinance,
complicated, it remains so.
as you can tell, it's a little bit
But you know
complicated.
what?
Even means
I think
more
it's-
that we should have involved.
But
So
I
I
think
guess-
it's lessons
well-
learned, right? I do think it's lessons learned, you know, I mean, I like, look, I always say this. We are never gonna be right 100% of the time. It's not even logical. But when something like that is brought to attention and at least it is verbalized, that means a lot so that we know, you know, now that we know better, we know how to do better, right? And so, again, once Susan hit that button and Chris and Susan had this thing, it was like, wow, right, that's exactly what it is, right? And so now you have to kind of, the next time you put a committee together or whatever, you have to kind of rethink that. I think that's the
Are
question
you
of it.
finished with your comments?
I just, we would also, because we are a 10,000 person potential event, we understand, we really don't wanna stress out any of our service providers, we don't.
don't.
Thank you.
It's not you.
I understand,
It's
but.
not corned tomato.
I
Corned
understand, but.
beer is running like a well-oiled, because it can't be, it's special legislation if we mention you. So it's not, I mean, it's not you, this is on the record, on the public record.
We have the FCP event so dialed in, it's not a problem.
No,
She's got this thing.
No, I just, because I know there's been a lot of conversation, but I think we are mainly on a similar page. I think the challenge is, and this is what lives in your heads right now that I'm hearing is not reflected in the ordinance. And so while this has made me feel better that we're not concerned that corn tomato beer is gonna go awry and we're gonna have to pay an extra $20,000. And that if there's a big event we're planning, we'll be able to apply for a resolution that gives us the ability to get a rain date. It's not clear on the ordinance, and so I ask that we make it a little bit clearer, give Brian what he needs to be able to say no to whoever's asking for multiple rain dates, because I don't know, we've only ever asked for rain date for one event, right? Because we don't, that's the only one we need it for. Can't we say no to people? I mean, can't you say no to people? But I just ask that we make it very clear in the language so that when you guys aren't here or I'm not here and somebody tries to bring up an event, they don't get struck down because what you know to be FID, not the problem, is not something that doesn't live on. That was my
Okay.
overall
Are you
point. No, I don't care.
We're done.
Okay,
I think
anybody
we're
else
done.
from the public?
Thank
any
you, I
comments?
just wanna say thank you to everybody.
You're welcome.
Helping us try to figure this out.
Don't let your mother get in your head and think it's you.
Alright.
All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
No move.
Is there a second?
Make a verbal second.
Okay, I gotta do this to get into a discussion. We have a motion to approve, to adopt ordinance 2025-12. Is there a second?
Hold on a second.
Okay, discussion. Let's find out what y'all wanna do. I mean, let me start with Brian. Brian, if this gets tabled tonight for further clarification, which means it has to be reintroduced as a brand new ordinance on May 12th, and then we've been talking about canceling that second meeting in May, so it wouldn't be heard until June. What does that do to you, or doesn't it do, or would you just prefer us to pass this tonight I'll work on that.
So in my opinion, we know what changes need to be made, so, and we can continue to have further conversations, but I would appreciate it if we could move it forward. The FCP events that, or FID events that are already in the works, we know what those are. We already know her rain date's already approved by the committee. Because it was submitted prior to this being passed, so there's no concern there with that event. To move forward, but we do have other events that are pending that we need to notify those event organizers. This is the new protocol, this is your event date. And this is why there's not rain dates for those events.
So your preference would be for the council to approve this
Right, and then we can make
and
the,
then introduce an amendments at the next meeting.
Will that make your life easier?
yeah, because I have 7, 8 full packet applications that have to go out.
That was my impression at the last meeting.
You know, either that or we're gonna have to waive all the fees when they're not in and within the 90-day window. So,
And so you prefer we pass it and amend it
ASAP.
that's fine,
next
and
meeting?
So.
you know, Jeremy, you, Marcia, myself.
She's trying to get it
Go ahead.
Because I
Sorry.
just want to cross reference. Right, for the FID, we could do that specific for them as an ordinance. Could we do it
It's a resolution.
as a resolution, as a
Or,
resolution?
or you could include it in the ordinance itself, because they're already in your ordinance.
Right.
correct?
But you mean as an amendment?
No. they're
What
not-
I'm trying to do is get the FID.
But so is the library, so is the
Yeah.
FPC.
So the definition is yours to craft as you like. Whatever you want to do. Either way.
We'll go back, let.
Okay, let Angel finish the question.
What I'm trying
Okay.
to, well, that, you know, I immediately went there with the library.
The answer is yes,
So it's
yes.
So we could do that and then we could
Sure.
specifically speak to those
Sure.
concerns
So,
in that
I'm sorry,
resolution,
say what
or
you're
an
saying.
amendment to the resolution.
Can you repeat what you're just saying, what you're suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is, if we pass this tonight.
Right.
We can very quickly address in a resolution or an amendment to the resolution the concerns of the FID.
Oh, okay.
So we
That's
can,
right.
so we'd either
Because
have to.
I want to, I hear you, really hear you, I'm more resident focused.
So we
Get a lot of
would, I
pushback
think
from
we
residents, so I get.
would amend the ordinance to include the definition of sponsorship, that's an organization, an event that comes right out of these walls. And Chris, correct me, like how you would identify, so FCP is looking for. They're not looking necessarily for us to eat the DPW and the police costs, but they're looking for the consideration.
They're looking for clarifications at the, if, I don't wanna speak for you,
Around rain
but
dates.
you're not allowed to speak at this point, so.
Specifically around rain dates is what I
Right,
get.
for any organization can request it, it's
Well,
not just them.
No,
No,
the
no,
ordinance,
no.
that was the whole thing about no rain dates,
It's-
that the
it's-
council
No.
unanimously
No,
agreed
now
on.
let me make myself clear, nobody, everybody can't just request a rain date, but the wording that they asked for was that it could be considered by the council with permission, essentially. Is that kind of what you're looking for? And more importantly, if we table this, because again, they can't talk right now, if we table this, can we include the FCP, FID into the discussion of the revised wording of this
Well, that's
amendment?
that's a definite, yes, that's.
Okay, well then we need to make sure that happens.
Isn't that a part of the amendment?
That would be part of the
Part of the
amendment.
amendment.
Okay, that's, I just wanna make
I
sure
wanna
that's.
get back to this rain date thing though, okay. The council had. Prior to the introduction, when this was still being worked on between Kristen and Brian, the council had concurred with Brian and the entire committee, which is the chief of police, it's the DPW superintendent, who else was sitting in their room,
Fire marshal.
the fire marshal, that there would be no rain dates for anybody other than corn, beer, and tomato, because it was just too difficult.
But there was no representative on that committee from the FCP, including the FCP liaison? Or, actually,
Councilman Parker said.
that's a
Yeah.
question,
Councilman Parker was
there.
you were there,
I was
okay,
sitting at that
okay,
table.
I'm just trying to get clarification, okay.
So the, you know, if we're gonna go, if the council's gonna go back on that and say, all right, we're gonna allow. Chris, I need legal clarification, say yes or no question, yes or no. Can only the FCP be offered the courtesy of being able to ask, not get, but ask for rain dates? Or do we have to offer it to everybody in the municipal family, which includes the fire department? They wanna do events outside,
KCP, Sam Fleming.
Would it, Chris, would it
Same
be no
with
different than
plumbing.
when the chief submits his, like when we have to submit for the road closure applications, if the events committee wanted to bring an application before council to request special dispensation for the event to allow rain date, wouldn't that be permissible? No different than when the chief requests the road closures for council?
Yes, you can grant relief on a case by case basis. You state the reason for that relief in the resolution.
but is that an automatic that everybody gets to ask for it?
You've sat in the mayor's chair in 2 different towns, mayor, you know that people can ask for anything they want.
Is that more of an, okay, let me ask a question, going back to yours, and I just want to make sure I understand. Is that more of an appeal? So what I'm,
It is
So,
more of an appeal.
right, so isn't that different than saying that everybody's automatically can do that? Or is it that you have to have?
What if we base it
some
on attendance?
substantial- Hold on, that you have to have some substantial reasoning for why we should look at that. See what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, so that's because an appeal is one thing and saying that we can, everybody can do that is two different things.
The events committee is like this informal group that's never, like, they're just a group, right? It's a working group that includes, it includes our professionals and it includes you and me, right? So, I
Cause I think.
don't know if all these requests should go through the events committee. Who could make the recommendation?
Or does it go through them? Oh, that's
No.
right, they don't always do anything.
It's not
You're
just
right, you're right,
them.
you're right,
That's
you're
the
right, you're
problem.
right, you're right, you're right.
But this is the slippery slope. It's like, how do you say no to the fire department if it's in there that anybody can do this? How do you say, it's a very slippery slope.
Great slippery slope.
It is, and we're right back where we were, because it comes down to our professionals, our professional employees. You know, giving up their own lives, putting them, I shouldn't say giving them up, putting them completely on hold. The rain dates.
What do you
But
think?
does Mike get to approve the rain dates as well?
My champion is on the events committee,
Right,
but
but I'm asking, does he get to approve the rain dates as
He
well?
approves
The
if
chief
he has
does,
staffing
right?
or not.
He
If he has
approves if he
staffing
has
for the
staff.
event.
But that's my point. My point of it is that he has the option of saying, there's no staff to support that. Correct?
So why don't we pass the resolution as is, and instead of doing a quick amendment, think about this
Yeah,
more.
we need to really go.
It doesn't need to be a quick amendment, because then if we pass it, then Brian gets what he needs right now, which is not holding up the fall dates. And we promise ourselves, we look at it again and include the FCP and maybe a couple other organizations like the fire department or whatever involved in the discussions to make
well,
it
the fire
better.
marshal represents the fire department
Okay.
at the meetings.
Doesn't matter who. The
Doesn't
point
matter.
is, we don't wanna hold up,
Well, that's a good.
Right.
That's a good.
That's
a-
important.
So
a good
Brian, you
compromise.
would reconvene probably sometime in the middle of, in another week or so in May, a meeting of the events committee and invite the FCP in. To try to, and I think Chris should be there too, because this is really now about the language. And what's legal in the language, which is what gets dicey, and that's, you know, so I think we need to make sure he's available.
So one more thing, so here's the question though, here's my question. So what you said is that you have 4 right now, so.
No, yes, 7,
Okay,
great.
7 right now, whatever the number is. So my point of it is, we're gonna go through this process, you're gonna still accept these things. At some point in time, you've got to draw the line in the sand. So when is it that you're drawing the line in the sand and saying, I need to get back to you, or whatever the case may be, or just redo the form?
Well, the forms are gonna be redone, they're gonna go out, the new forms will go out with no rain dates
Okay.
on them. And the ones that have already submitted with rain dates are gonna be advised that your event's been reviewed and your initial date is X and there is no approved rain date for your event.
Okay, so if we approve this right now, you, tomorrow morning, you will go and send out these, whatever.
Wednesday, but.
Oh, whatever, so send out this and make this, and make this all happen.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Okay. So, and then you'll convene, you'll check with Chris on his calendar dates.
Yep.
Cause I think he really
That's
needs,
okay,
I
but-
think he really needs to be sitting there,
And hope both of
I
you
agree.
hopefully.
the two of us.
I agree, Chris needs to be there and they
And,
need to be there.
and the chief and Mike Campion and,
Yeah, it'll be the whole work.
and right, the working group, okay.
It is the most complicated permitting ordinance I deal with in my 4 towns by a country mile.
Really?
Yes.
This one, it took.
Which you have, but
We
you have to
can
remember
actually
that you're the
discuss
only
it.
one of my 4 that haven't, Middlesex isn't a big downtown, the other 2 are more rural.
That's true.
So you guys need it, but it is.
Well, we're in townships downtown, that's what they
It's
tell
a
us.
point, Carla called around to how many neighboring towns, municipalities of similar size, scope, bigger, smaller. Nobody does the amount of events that we do.
Very true. Very good.
Okay, so that's good.
Well, please don't forget to vote this time. The only 12 of us.
I haven't forgotten, I just wanna make sure we're all.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
All right,
Yes.
roll call.
Councilwoman Fasaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Council Vice President Long?
Yes.
And Council President.
Yes.
Thank you. You guys are good. Okay, ordinance 2025-14, an ordinance providing for the acquisition of a fire truck for the borough of Flemington in the county of Hunterdon, New Jersey, and appropriating $475,000. Therefore, from the capital improvement fund, can I have a motion to open to the public?
Long move.
Is there a second?
Parker second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This ordinance is now open to the public for public hearing. Anybody wishing to make comment on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Connor Atkinson, 20 Pennsylvania Avenue. As an individual, I just want to personally thank the council, everyone here and everyone in this town for supporting the fire department, supporting all of us in this ordinance. And this is just in my opinion, a long overdue upgrade. And especially with the current fire truck market, as the fire marshal may have explained to you guys before, it's up to 4 years for a brand new fire truck, up to $2 million. And I don't think we can afford that. This is a great opportunity for all of us to improve services for the town. And I, like I said, just want to thank you all for going along with this. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else from the public? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Long move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-14?
Long move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
Okay, before I call roll call, I just want to publicly also thank Raritan Township. Raritan Township, I called the mayor regarding getting their DPW, which does have a garage with a mechanic who works on fire trucks. They gave us the courtesy to take a look at the fire truck for us to make sure it was in really great working order. They gave us a double thumbs up. It saved us time and it also saved us money. That the township did that for us, and I'm really so pleased that we have such a great working relationship between the two fire departments now. It's the best I've seen in my lifetime between Raritan and Flemington. So I just want to thank Raritan Township, their DPW superintendent, mechanic, and the mayor for doing that for us. Any other discussion?
Yeah, and I just want to add, I want to thank our fire chief, Rob Skank, and our other fireman, Cole Kimball, who did some literal legwork to get a lot of this done. I'll spare you the details, but thank him. And of course, the mayor for working with the department and everybody, and all these pieces had to fall into place. So I just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody.
Roll call, please, Carly.
Arias?
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Council Vice President Long?
Yes.
And Council President Parker.
Yes.
Great. I don't know when we're getting delivery on this, hopefully soon, but we do need to be mindful that as soon as we take delivery, we need to get it under our insurance, the old truck, wherever it gets moved to. Our insurance company needs to know its new location. And I guess since Bill Hance, our CFO, is listening in, we need to get the old engine declared surplus so we can now get both the trucks, the old ladder and the old engine up for auction, so we can recoup some of this money to pay down this truck. So we can do that at the next meeting. I think we can declare it surplus and get it the old engine.
Don't we have to do a resolution to purchase? Truck?
Isn't that what, yeah, it says
Bill's
providing
on.
for the acquisition of.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanna make sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
I
acquisition.
don't think so.
Bill, is that true? We don't need a
Bill,
resolution?
can you
Oh,
come
shit.
in?
You gotta- Yep. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, you really should do a resolution stating who we're buying it from and the amount.
Okay, so for the next meeting on the 12th of May, we'll do the purchasing resolution and we can also do the surplus resolution on the old engine bill.
Yeah, I'll get the information on that and I could put together that resolution as well, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll get those on the 12th of May. We just need to get, maybe you can, Carla, let Ken McCormick know we need the information on the old engine. So it can go for surplus. Okay. All right, regular agenda resolution 2025-71, resolution supporting the river crossing YMCA Leamington Community Pool Project. Can I have a motion?
Engelhardt will move.
Is there a second?
Park, I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank the River Crossing YMCA and the representative here tonight, because this was something that we had brought up 2 years ago with our first resolution and got that initial, 750,000, and I really appreciate your efforts to continue working with this. I know that Jeff and I and the Assemblywoman met late last year about this, so I'm really glad to see that it's still moving forward, little by little, we're gonna get it done.
Roll call.
And one thing, back in 2020, we were here, we were very excited. Then we had some issues, if anybody remembers. But I just remember how excited everybody was and how it was, we were feeling good. So I hope this is it. I hope this is the start of it.
Well, there's your biggest champion right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly.
Right there.
Thank
That
you.
guy is working
Thank you,
so
Jeff.
hard. I like, and I'm saying that because I'm intimately involved with this with him. But it's just, this warms your heart when you see someone outside the government who is trying to make something happen and just is relentless and does not see any barriers for getting it done. So, Jeff. Absolutely.
Okay, roll call please.
Councilman Rice?
Yes.
Councilman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Councilman Pizarro?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Council Vice President Wong?
Yes.
And Council President Parker?
Yes.
Resolution 2025-72, resolution appointing CGPNH as the affordable housing agent. They are our agent now, they've been our agent. When we have affordable housing, they are the ones that put up stuff for the lottery or whatever, that's what they do. Brett thinks very highly of them. Chris and I don't think highly of any of these organizations, but you gotta pick your poison and there are poison. So they've been ours for a decade probably.
I know that nothing's come up recently.
Yeah, Spice Factory actually put
Oh.
up an
I
auction.
appreciate the ordinance.
Yeah, Spice Factory actually put out a notice for a lottery, I didn't say auction for lottery. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
Roll call, please. I'm sorry, any discussion? Roll call?
Councilman Arias?
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pizarro?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yeah.
Council Vice President Wong?
Yes.
And Council President Parker?
Yes.
Okay, we have no work session, public comment session number 2. Anybody wishing to speak from the public, please come forward, you have 3 minutes. Unlike the public comment where I let you go when you wanted to.
I have an obnoxiously long event calendar to share with you.
That's okay.
But I also brought you each of the fabulously designed peeps maps that we gave to the business that mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4 new businesses that were part of it. And I just wanted to thank the CERT team and the police because what everybody says is this feels like a busy town, that it's reminiscent of the past. It's so fun and wonderful to have crossing guards and to feel like people are just moving all around our main street so safely. The traffic is so slowed down. It's a really great feeling.
Except for me, who are in over a traffic cone.
Oh, was that you?
You knew that, and you didn't say a
I
word.
saw
Look at you.
I kept it tight.
Did you?
Yeah, but I bear my soul. I did, I ran over the traffic cone, I didn't see it.
I have a quick
I saw
question,
it.
Robin.
Yeah.
Was it sold out last year as well?
So last year we set the number at 150 and it sold out. This year I set it at 300 and it sold out. But
It's amazing.
because we have to buy, 2,000 pre-filled eggs, which is, I'm sure
You
you've
didn't
all
fill
bought.
in yourself all night long?
That I
Get the
did not
Girl
do.
Scouts and everybody to do it.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a really good
Yes,
idea.
well, we'll
That's
put
a
you
Boy
in
Scout.
charge of that, Carla. Carla,
Idea.
that is
Thanks
your
so
new
much.
job, to be in charge of that.
And then
Okay,
where, and the kids get to keep the eggs, so we don't have to store them.
So anyway, we had a fabulous event. We were able to accommodate at least 100 more people who didn't see the pre-reg and showed up. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
And one of our new businesses said they had almost 400 sales that day because, we can bring people to people's shops, but it doesn't mean that they're buying anything. And it's very hard to do business driven events. We work, it's hard. We work really hard on that. So anyway, it was a great success. I wanted to give you a sign update. I did speak to Brad Meyer at the county to make sure that the county buildings that are on the signs, because the police said a lot of people are looking for the Hall of Records, they're looking for the clerk. Some people are looking for the court, that we can get that with the economy of language, because county administration building is really long. And we have just a little bit of real estate on the signs. So they're working on the naming, the nomenclature, but we are very close to showing you a closer to final design and getting your input. So I think maybe the next meeting or the one after that, we will show you the designs. We also asked if we could have the county's help with the bucket truck, because lifting these very 100-pound signs and placing them back on the post was really challenging for the DPW. And they did a great job, but I don't think anybody was prepared for how difficult that was. We saw them doing it and it was like, oh my goodness, so we asked for a little support. And we found a place to bring all the signs and have them painted, which is also part of what has to happen. So I think you will see real sign activity to a conclusion in the next 30 days? Yes, 30 days.
So when you're talking about the various offices.
nomenclature?
administration, So I was in Cleveland this past weekend, in Solon actually, Cleveland and Solon, but I saw that, and they actually had each department that was important, not every single one of them, but passport, clerk, police. It was like so perfect and so neat. I forgot to take. I'll have my brother take a picture. I'll have my brother take a picture and send it. But it was perfect. It was perfect, plus an arrow.
Yeah.
You knew to go to this way if you were gonna go to this building, and you knew to go this way if you're going to this building. It was perfect. I'll have them take a picture of it.
What was the third thing? Signs?
Train.
Oh, the train.
The-
Yes, so thank you, Tony, for mentioning that train. We will invite everybody to actually come and walk the walk and give input. We are paying for a study of how this could work. And it does, there are opportunities there is a need to move the train station out of Stangle Road and Liberty Village where it is. There is an opportunity to revisit the conversation about the train station that's on Park Avenue, and if that is viable to be moved. But no matter what, the train station that currently exists on Stengel is going to have to move. So we have to start to look at this and make some decisions, and we're just here to facilitate the idea generation, and we will include everybody in making the decisions.
And just so you know, Kane is actually committed to moving that train station,
Yes,
the one that
the one on Park Ave,
Yes.
the Lehigh Valley train station?
Yeah.
Yes,
he is committed.
yes.
Thanks, Rob.
And he also he has land where he can move the train station too. And it actually works because while the train needs, I think, 600 feet of platform, so everybody can embark and disembark at the same time, and that allows them to use some of the old platform, and it really involves cleaning up all of the mishigas and brush and garbage behind the Swim and Sweat Belvedere building, which is really messy back there. So this is exciting.
ETA for the linear part to be finished? Like, is there an actual, because they were doing the construction on it when we did the tour last week.
So honestly, yes and no. The yes is, I was told that the path is clean because Keen Baringa got an NJTPA grant to clear the mess and to remove the third track that wasn't being used. So it's been cleaned and prepped. And George Malone has enough bricks from Liberty Village to actually fill it all in. But we need a plan that shows the safety features, because it's, there has to be fencing, there has to be lighting, there have to be other considerations, so,
That
it's,
part is not.
yeah, that, the plan,
That's what we're paying for the plan for.
yeah, we're paying for a plan with, in collaboration with Keen, the owner of the tracks, to just give us some ideas about what this renderings of what it could look like, and some considerations of where things could go. Where could the station move? What could it look like?
Well, thanks to Mr. Malone, it's a shame that Mr. Dallas didn't follow his resolution from 15 years ago and save the bricks from his facility as well. That's all.
Yeah.
Anything
yeah,
else,
I need
Robert?
that already.
That's all, thank you.
Exactly.
All right, we are at, never mind. Yes, payment, yes,
Okay. What is this?
What was your? Is a take one and pause, please.
No, I said, are we, oh, I don't know, is it? That's what I'm asking.
I think Chick-fil-A is escrow that they were in for an application.
Oh,
These
okay.
are all escrow.
Okay,
This is all escrow.
okay, yeah, I just didn't know what this was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's escrow.
For all your
Yeah,
Jeff, you wanna ride home?
It's, yeah, they're all escrow
Okay.
for planning board.
Hang on, those.
All right, payment of bills, authorizing payment of bills in the amount of $866,649.38. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Hart will second.
Roll call please.
Yes. Question?
Oh, yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification on the door gate repair for the police department. What was that about?
You want me to answer?
I don't know what it is.
We had that windstorm approximately, 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago? And the wind basically tore the gate,
The front gate.
the front gate, pushed it forward and the gate was stuck into the ground.
Oh.
So they had to bring in, it's been collapsing,
Uh,
but they had to bring in and put a wire basically to short back up to the building to pull it so that they line up again.
well, I'm glad it was.
So, but it suffered wind damage.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I wasn't clear whether, because it said building improvements, I wasn't sure if that was part of the plan work
No.
or if it was a repair.
That was there when we bought the building.
Yeah, it's a great gate.
It's a really
When it-
high
when it
quality
gets stuck,
gate.
It's
It's
really
worth
fun to
getting-
try to get through.
Yeah, it's worth getting fixed, I think, it's a really high quality gate. Is there a place, when I delivered the donations there a couple months ago, is there like a place marked where people can park and walk up to
So
the
there
front
will
door.
be, I guess it's
It's
pending
part
right
of the
now,
site
there's
plan.
gonna be. There's gonna be spots
Okay.
like drawn out on the
Great.
main drive there
That's what I
with
thought.
signage, but for whatever.
Thank you.
I was gonna
Sorry,
say,
in the middle, please.
can you do this
Roll
afterwards?
call,
Don't park the gate. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fedora?
Rosara,
Yes.
Levin,
Yes.
Council Vice President Owen.
Yes.
Council President Parker.
Just one other thing before we call for a motion to adjourn, the public hearing has been set by the freeholder county commissioners for the ADA compliant hot lot at the county park behind the courthouse for their first freeholder meeting in May, I believe is the date at the regular freeholder meeting. So that project looks like it's finally gonna happen, we're gonna get a little tot lot.
Where is it?
The tot lot that Warren Buckleitner donated money from.
By the gazebo, Tony.
On the other side, but close to the women's center, women's club.
Okay, German?
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
On the move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's nice.
Good night, everybody. We got.